Hello and welcome to the Overland Journal podcast. I am your host, Scott Brady, and I am here with my co-host, Matt Scott.
Hello.
And we are very fortunate today to have one of the OGs of overlanding in North America and a close personal friend, Paul May. Thank you so much for being on the podcast, man.
Oh, it's my pleasure, my honor. Thank you for having me in.
Well, and you were telling Matt and I that you've actually listened to all of the podcasts.
The whole kit and caboodle.
So what are some things that you think we could do better about the podcast?
I think you guys are spot on. I think you're doing an awesome job. And
Particularly me, I'm really good, right?
when you're here.
Matt has lots of cool things to do, and the podcast is just one of them.
He's got plenty on his plate. I'm pretty sure of it.
Exactly.
What I really enjoyed about it, and maybe it's I don't know how to say it, but it's all these people that I have met and that are friends of mine that you guys have interviewed, and I'm like, I know where he's coming from, and I picture their face sitting right here, and it's been a wonderful experience for me.
And now you're sitting right here
in this hallowed seat.
And a special thanks to one of this week's sponsors, Rumple Blankets. Rumple started literally in the back of a van. Their story is interesting. They were on a surf and ski trip through California, and the founders of Rumple were sleeping in a van several miles up a dirt road near a secret hot springs. They woke up the next morning in sub-zero temperatures in a car that wouldn't start. They were outside of cell reception and confronted with the real possibility of a long walk into town. So instead, they decided to bundle up in their sleeping bags and drink whiskey while they waited for someone else to show up. And that turned into hours, and the conversation extended on to the subject of bedding, and they came up with Rumple Blankets. Their most popular product is the original puffy blanket. It is their flagship product, and it's available in a 1-person, a 2-person, and a junior size. I have used the 2-person for many years. I keep it as part of my kit that lives in the vehicle just in case I run into a situation similar to what they did, where I'm stranded and need some additional warmth and insulation. It's also really useful for around the campfire when you want that little bit of extra comfort. I'll also use it when sleeping in the vehicle, and then they are just the right size for a roof tent as well. So these are really high quality blankets that are weather resistant. They're made from recycled materials. They're washable, and they have very durable fabrics and construction, which makes them ideal for overland travel. Check out Rumple for your next blanket.
You're not on the podcast just because you're our buddy, but it is because you have lived a very interesting life, and you have traveled extensively yourself, including probably a dozen trips by now to Africa, if not close to that.
Yeah, getting close.
Yeah. And you've traveled a lot also in North America. You've owned a lot of different Land Cruisers. So I'd love to just let this conversation flow through some of where you've come from, and then those little nuggets of those gems of experience that you've had along the way with your journeys. So maybe just give us where did Paul come from?
Yeah, who is Paul?
Who is Paul May?
It's been a wonderful life. I'm very fortunate. My parents were all for travel, and I grew up in traveling in travel trailers of all things.
Yeah.
We had an Aristocat. It was a single axle. Ran around in that in the early 70s. In the mid to late 70s, we had a double axle Prowler, and we went all over the place in that. And I also was involved in a lot of early activities with the Scouts, and we got out a bunch in there. So 75, my parents took me on a month-long around the country tour. We left.
Wow.
And I was in the back seat of the Ford Country Squire, and we went from
Country Squire. That's awesome.
Yeah, and it was a bad Country Squire. I mean, it was mean. I mean, like my dad would fly by all the guys in the pickups with their trailers, and he'd just hauling it past the guys, and he'd just wave and smile. Yeah, it was a pretty impressive car. But we did a trip from Salt Lake to Albuquerque to Texas to Florida to New York City to Chicago and back.
Yeah.
I mean, all around the country. And it just opens your eyes to there's a different world, right? Especially at 10 years old. When I was in that early time frame, I also started getting into the outdoors. Scouting was a big thing. And so all my friends were getting their trains and their Hot Wheels and all of those things. And for Christmas, I'm getting Kirkham's backpacking tent and a down sleeping bag and the hard frame backpack and all this stuff to go camping and getting out. When I was 12, we did a 60-mile backpacking trip for 8 days and hiked from Utah through Kings Peak and out, from Wyoming to Kings Peak and out into Utah. And that hooked me on the outdoors part of that. So from there, man, boy, anytime that I could get away. I mean, I drove when I was 16. I took off in the car I had at that time and slept in the front seat of the car in Newport Beach.
Oh, sweet, sweet.
Ran
and
off.
at 16, that's legit.
Yeah,
at 16.
we ran off and did that.
That's something that you can only do at 16.
And well, at 22 as well. I slept in the front seat of my 2002 TII in Sausalito for a couple days, and so we were getting out and doing that stuff.
I bet you wish you still had that car.
Oh yeah,
Like those 2002s have just gone through the roof in the last 5 years.
I used to drag race muscle cars on State Street in Salt Lake City back in the day. It was a lot of fun, and so a lot of wanderlust involved in that, and that moved me into traveling a little bit more for just personal enjoyment, and every dime I made for after college and getting up through all that stuff, I spent on traveling the Southwest and getting out and doing more and more and more. And it was a lot of fun. I had a blast with it. And, that all who wander are not lost kind of thing.
Yeah.
That was my mantra for a long time. Got into vehicles, trucks. Started out with a 67 Scout right-hand drive male Jeep. That was the kind of the skateboard mobile in college. Went to a CJ3A at Willys. You had a Willys, right? Yeah, it was a CJ3A. 40 was the top speed in the thing, but it'd climb a tree.
Sure.
Right? So we'd flat tow that down to Moab. And
I've been wanting to buy a CJ2A or CJ3A for a very long time.
I want a CJ5. I don't know why. I can't explain it.
It's a V8 in them, I think.
Yeah, I can explain it.
I can do a lot.
Yeah, you can get a 304 in it. Yeah, for sure.
So I had that 3A, and then a friend of mine was deeply involved and still is with Land Rover in Utah. So I had a Series 388 that we've put a full Defender interior in it and rebuilt the engine in that. And then I had a Series 2A 109 right-hand drive out of Wales for a little while. Couldn't trust either of them out of the town.
Yeah. When you were driving around the town, you were awesome. You were on safari in Salt Lake.
Yeah. They were cool. I mean, very sexy cars.
Super cool. Yeah.
Very sexy vehicles.
Did yours stop? Because my 109 2.8 did not stop.
If you put your feet out on the ground.
Yeah, that was the most effective way to do it.
Yeah. It went through a lot of sand.
They had some kind of master cylinder that had like a little air pocket, and the factory prescribed method was to park the vehicle on a 45-degree slope so you can bleed the brakes. So I'm like
who's going to do that?
no, I'm just not going to have brakes.
I'll just go slow and downshift.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Your Land Rover was awesome too, Matt. I remember that. Wasn't it like from a game park somewhere or something?
It was like imported from, I want to say, somewhere that was right-hand drive, so South Africa or England. I was thinking South Africa based on the fact that there was no rust. And then it lived on it was like the out of Africa game park somewhere in Texas.
Oh, that's right. So that's right.
I remember it was the blue with the badging on it.
Ralph, the Land Rover. That thing was awesome though.
Yeah.
Well, mine wasn't so lucky. It came out of Wales, and it was a bucket of rust, but it looked awesome.
So
broke the frame and all.
So in the capacity that I've known Paul, you have been fanatical about Land Cruisers.
Yes.
Was it the 109's fault that you went
partially? Yes. A couple things. One, the old vintage Rovers were a pretty snooty bunch. If you did anything outside of Rover, it was unspoken.
It's still the same.
Same way.
Yeah. If you put a tire wider than 10 inches on a Land Rover, you're excommunicated.
You're out.
Yeah, you're out.
Well, see, I love unicorns.
Yeah.
And I like to see what people can do with them. And so I hopped into, for necessity of something that reliable that I could take out of town. I drive and wheel and come back and still be in the same truck. That was one reason. But I also like to see what people can do with them and modifying vehicles and such.
Yeah.
So I went through. I bought a second-gen 4Runner back in the early '90s. Proceeded to roll it to 2
I remember that story.
Yeah, I was up in Snohomish Pass and hit black ice and did a 720 on the road and then a horizontal 720 off of the road, full on yard sale. Walked away with a scratch on my nose, and the car was dented in every panel. And I was like, dang, these are pretty good cars. I went right back to Salt Lake and bought me another one.
Yeah.
Yeah, the car saved your life.
Yeah, yeah. Walked
Imagine
away.
if you had been in the Land Rover, or any vintage vehicle when that happened.
Flat Paul.
Yeah, they
Paul would not be as tall.
That's right.
I would not be around. That's
Yeah.
for darn sure. So yeah, so it started with the 4Runners as far as that goes, and I've been through a couple different pickups, and from there I ended up with the 100 Series Land Cruiser. It was actually my wife's car to start with, because I had another work truck and some other things going on there. And when we started up equipped, I told my wife I need a truck to put all the stuff on. And she looked at me square in the eye and she says, "I'm not driving a tank. I want a car." And that was that. So she got a car, and I got a tank.
And you got a Land Cruiser.
I got a tank
Yeah.
out of it. So, yeah, and then we've got a progression from there. So,
Now on that 100 Series Land Cruiser, because that was the one that you had the longest, and I mean, we did a bunch of traveling together in that, and you even competed valiantly in the expedition trophies of early days with that vehicle. Talk a little bit about what you really liked about what you did with the vehicle, and then maybe some things that you wouldn't do again, or that you found were maybe shortcomings of the 100.
the 100 was a beast of a vehicle, and anything I threw at it, it just didn't seem to care. And I put more on it and more on it and more on it, and it had everything you can imagine. I was way over GVWR on that thing. And it was a blast, and I had a wonderful time, and I didn't want to get rid of it. And so I think that what I did is I overbuilt it. There was just too many systems trying to come out of that one single vehicle. Now it's still running and still going and doing fine for the gentleman that has it now. I think that was probably the one thing that I would say that I did is I overbuilt that truck.
Yeah.
The cruisers are so heavy and stout to begin with that they're easy to overbuild, though. You know, you kind of have to put a rear bumper on them. You kind of need some sliders. You kind of need this, and all of a sudden, you've got an extra 200-300 pounds of just stuff bolted before you put the stuff in it.
Yeah, and I had a 45-gallon auxiliary tank, so I was carrying 72 gallons on board that thing. I could drive to L.A. and fill up and drive back.
Yeah, sure.
There's no problem at all. So I think the weight of all that stuff. But other than that, boy, that was a lot of fun. A lot of it was built by myself. I did a lot of things. My first rack on there was an ATV ramp that I bolted together and put some oddball stuff on there before we really got into the market of what we see today as the overlanding market. It was, you were on your own if you wanted a rack.
There wasn't a whole lot. I mean, and I think you and I first started talking probably around 2004 or so. Does that sound right on the time frame? Maybe
2005, I think.
2005?
In the fall of 5 or early 6.
I had been working with Nathan Hinman, who was working on some of the Easy On stuff. And then I think you just called me up one day and you're like, "Hey, I'm Paul May, and I'm the guy who's bringing in all this cool Easy On stuff. By the way, thanks for all of the photos and all of the coverage that you've been." I mean, you were just very gracious. I remember it was it left an impression on me, that first conversation. You were very gracious about it. I remember you being very complimentary of Jess and his dad. And I mean, at the time, in fact, I think that's how you connected with Easy On, was that you met one of the Stuhlers on their way north, right?
Yeah. Quite honestly, where I am right now, it wouldn't have happened without my involvement with Land Cruisers. Quite honestly, it wouldn't have all. Back in 2005, I was looking for a change in my life. I'd been working at the same company for going on 20 years, and it was time for me to do something different. And Jack Stuhler, he was a founder of Easy On, and he was on a trip. He was in his 60s, and he was with his girlfriend, and they had put together a troopy and had driven it from Ushuaia to Alaska. And they came into Salt Lake, and I was in the presidency of our local Land Cruiser Club, and I invited them to stop and let us see. You never saw troopies.
No.
Yeah,
right?
you don't see it.
Darn rare, especially 15 years ago.
Totally.
And so he stopped, and we kind of hit it off, and he had all these interesting things on this truck I'd never seen before. And he showed me all of them, and he says, "You know anybody be interested in bringing this stuff to the United States?" And I started to say somebody else's name, and my wife punched me in the arm, looked at me like, "You idiot."
Yeah. It should be
just,
you. Yeah.
there's that look. You get the look, right? No words are said. She just give me that look, and I'm like, "Oh, yeah, you're right. I am an idiot." And I said, hey, can we talk about this tomorrow? And I spent a sleepless night, thought it over, and decided I'm going to start a company. Told Jack that the next day, and we met with the whole Land Cruiser Club. And I flew down to Houston when he was packing it up to leave, and I said, I'm serious. Looked him in the eye, we shook hands, and that's the only deal we've made.
Wow.
And it's been a gentleman's agreement ever since. I think the Stuhlers, Jack and his son Jess, who Jess is running Easy On now, true gentlemen.
Yeah, incredible
Far
people.
and above.
Yeah, incredible.
True gentlemen. And they are loyal and honorable men, and I'm privileged to be involved with that company. So we started out at that point. I started the company up, and our first show was the Easter Jeep Safari in 2006. And I show up with this truck and park it down in the middle of that booth area.
Yeah.
I'm right across from KC Highlights, and there's semi and all this stuff, right? And these guys are walking by with the tank tops and the beers, and they're staring at my thing like I had a third head.
Yeah.
And they're like, what's that? I haven't seen anything like that. And I talked to the KC guys, and they're like, well, welcome to the Super Bowl, young man.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting over there by myself, like, hey, look at me, I'm cool. And yeah, it was a very interesting start. Yeah, that was kind of the start of the whole thing as we brought stuff in early 2006.
And now KC has roof tents on their vehicles.
Yeah.
Life comes
Life
in full
is
circle.
Full circle on that, right? Yeah, it was a pretty interesting start. That's for sure.
And yeah, my experience with the Stuhlers have also been that. And in fact, I remember when we were preparing the Land Cruisers, we came into Africa, and you were with me and Greg and Kurt and the team from Expedition 7 in Africa. We did that whole trip together. We did Botswana and the Skeleton Coast, and that was just an incredible experience. And Jess and Jack let us just basically store those trucks in their shop for a long time, months before we sent them off for Antarctica. On the E7 experience, what were some of the things that you noticed? Because sometimes I have trouble seeing the forest for the trees. But since you were involved with E7 for that one leg, what were some of the things that you took away from that? Things that maybe you recognized as that's a really good idea, or maybe that isn't such a good idea. What were some of the takeaways that you had from Expedition 7?
I think the biggest thing I took away was your philosophy on the builds on the Troopies. Out of that, and how you took great care to make sure that they were light and nimble and functional, and you had a lot of capability that you probably would never use, but you had it in case something happened. You had an ability to take care of everybody in your crew if you lost one of them for some reason, and I thought that was pretty cool. I mean, it was a different take than I had taken on vehicles at that point. I was throwing all the stuff at them I could. Of course, I'm in the market. That's what I do. I sell stuff. So you show the stuff, right? And I still do. And I still have that stuff on there. But I thought it was a really good way of going about that. It's preservation of assets. And that's one of the things you've taught me early on, too. That one was really cool. I also learned that there is a rev limiter on a 60 series or a 70 series Land Cruiser with a 4-speed and a V6. When we were out in the I got to ride with the gentleman that was our scout.
Yeah, that's right.
Man, he just wrapped that thing out,
banging off the rev limiter.
The Sauces Flay?
Yeah, the Sauces Flay trip out in the Skeleton Coast, and so I got to ride along with the guy figuring out where we're going. Yeah, and he was high marking this thing like a snowmobile.
It was incredible. He was so good. He was so good at it.
Yeah,
and he had like a colostomy bag. It was just like the most unusual experience. I mean, he was just this ninja on the dunes.
Yeah.
But and he just needed it. He needed his magic carpet. It was incredible how well he could drive.
And we had these fairly heavy trucks for what they were underweight, but still a heavy truck, kind of lumbering behind, going across these things. And he's I was like hair on fire. I go, oh God, this is awesome.
Yeah.
And that was a lot of fun. First helicopter ride that I ever took in my life was on that trip up in the Okavango.
Yeah, in the Delta
there. And getting up in that glorified Volkswagen Beetle with an
R44.
Oh man,
it's the most deadly helicopter ever made.
It was perfect.
It was perfect.
It was such an awesome feeling to be up and above that and see all that going on.
The wildlife, right?
Yeah, the wildlife was impressive. Even out on the Skeleton Coast, the wildlife was impressive.
Yeah, for sure. 4
days out there by yourself in the dunes, and there's nobody.
Yeah, we were it.
Driving on ruby sand.
I know, it was incredible.
Seeing those ships locked in on 100 meters or 1,000 meters from the coast. just things ingrained in my memory that I will never forget.
Yeah.
Thanks to you guys. So it was a wonderful trip.
It really was such a great time. I remember when we first started getting into the dunes, and the 70s were just struggling. We weren't even a half a mile in, and we weren't even in the big dunes yet, and these trucks were struggling.
Well, those dunes are big.
They're big. They're really big. And I remember there was a couple members of the team that were starting to get very nervous, and like, we're never gonna, like, we haven't even made it a half a mile yet, and we've got to go hundreds of miles. And I just kept saying, we're gonna find the right tire pressure. We're gonna find the right tire pressure. And we kept getting lower and lower. And I think we ended up running those trucks, as I recall, at about 10 psi in the rear and about 12 psi up front. And we did lose some beads on the wheels, but it was the only way you could get them through. Was just very, very low pressures. So
Yeah, and good spotting on it.
yeah, and good. We had great drivers and stuff like that. I mean, it showed how amazing of a driver Kurt is to haul that 79 filled with all that fuel and everything. Like, it was just,
And he does just, it doesn't. I haven't yet to find anything that affects Kurt.
yeah. He's unfazed.
He's good with whatever.
Yeah, he's like, that's cool. We got it.
Break the truck in Greenland. Okay, we can get out and fix that.
Totally.
Whatever it is, Kurt is unswayed in his activities. That was cool. The other thing that I really remember is going down the dunes. Okay, so sand can only effectively get to a 45-degree angle on the sand. You'd lean over those sand dunes, and they would growl at you. You get the car, and you're like, right in the sand, because there's so much air in those sand dunes because they've been blowing around. We're compressing that air out of them, and the growling that came out of these hills as you're going down, it was.
And I've
never heard that before.
I've never experienced that in any other sand dunes. So in Peru, in the Gobi, in any other sand dunes, I've never experienced that growling effect. It was unnerving. It was like a lion growling. As you're going.
Where's that?
So you got to go back, man.
I got to go back.
You got to go back.
It was impressive. It was awesome.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, I think E7. We all three of us have been on that in various stages.
I want to go back to Africa. You talk about Africa, I'm just like, nothing else matters anymore. I don't care about Moab. I don't care about the Mojave Road. Take me back to Africa.
Yeah, exactly.
I've had some wonderful experiences over there, and I love going over there and doing
It's just not what people think it is. You know,
Yeah.
I feel like there's a strong apprehension. Like, I always get people that ask me, aren't you worried about being there? I'm like, well, if I went home to Chicago, I'd be a little bit
way more worried.
I'd be a little bit more worried than, like, the worst thing that's going to happen, in Namibia is, you're going to starve to death because there's no one there, which means there's no one there to commit a crime.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. There's, I think, 4 or 5 cities in the United States that are more dangerous than
No question.
Johannesburg.
No question.
In the list of crime issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are issues. Don't get me
Johannesburg
wrong.
still sketches me out. Let's be straight.
It is.
But
I
then we
remember
all-
when you
yeah.
picked me up at the airport, you're like, we got to be careful driving at it. I'm like, we're on the highway. He's like, yeah, we got to be careful driving at night.
Yeah, exactly.
There are issues. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
There are certain issues, but there are issues everywhere. There are
Yeah.
certain areas in Los Angeles I don't drive.
Yeah.
Or Chicago, or East St. Louis, or you can pick them out, and you just don't go there. Or if you do, you go with people.
Well, and I was picking you up at the airport in a G-Wagon, and I'm like, we're going to stick to this one route. It was like,
that was
10 o'clock
right
at night.
when COVID was starting to be a thing,
Yeah,
too.
too.
And I remember, like, when it was like the last trip.
Yeah. It was the last trip we were all on.
Dang. It was a while ago.
Totally. What was your favorite trip in Africa? Even if it's, let's not assume that it's E7. What's been one of the most memorable adventures that you've had on that continent?
I'm going to say a couple.
Okay.
Had a chance to go with Jack and Jess out to Kruger National Park and travel over that park. Also went with you and Bruce.
We did.
And we went up and did that incredible trip with that Impala.
Madikwe, right?
Yeah, I think it was in that Impala that ran into the side of the...
Oh, yeah. And
Remember
the
that?
wild dogs, yeah.
Yeah,
I wasn't, that
wild.
was, Matt. So Matt and I have been having a conversation about Africa, and I said, Matt, I'm just telling you from my own screw up, do the morning game drives. Because I was the one guy who was like, oh, I'm going to sleep in this day. And Bruce and Paul and whoever else, I mean, maybe Jess was there too. They all go out, and Impala runs into the side of the game truck, like center punches it, knocks itself out, and then a pack of wild dogs devour it right over the vehicle, like right next to the vehicle.
Yeah, from me to you. It was like air-breathing piranha. I mean, they left like 3 bones out of this poor little animal. And you're looking at it, you've got your camera in your hand, and you're like, and all of a sudden it's all gone, and off they go. And I was like, phew, good God, crazy stuff. That was wild.
Yeah, and I missed that one.
Yeah.
I missed it. That's what I told Matt. I'm like, Matt, I missed the coolest thing.
I've got 100 days until Tanzania, so
That was a good one. I had to go Kalahari on the other side.
Oh, sure.
Just below Namibia. Beautiful place. Lots of animals that side. But the one, it's going to sound funny, the most memorable trip that I've had over there, I went with Heather on, and it was more of a cruise, touring. We flew down to Port Elizabeth on the southeast coast. We rented a Mercedes, and they decided to upgrade us to a Jeep Grand Cherokee. I was less than excited about that whole thing. I was like, come on, really? This is come on, where's the Merc? I want the Merc. Yeah. And we did a garden route, the whole southern coast.
That's beautiful.
And went to the national parks and rented one of their cottages in the national parks and saw that all happen. We bungee jumped off the highest bungee jump on the planet. It was 670-foot crevasse that we jumped off a perfectly good bridge by our ankle. How did that
feel?
Fun.
Did you feel noodly afterwards? Like, did it like kind of? I imagine you get a great back crack.
What they did is they lined you up by size. Well, guess where I was, right? So I got to watch all of the people in front of me lined up there. And the first ones, the gals were a little bit scared. And so what they do is they touch you all over. Like Heather was up there getting ready, and she was getting all nerved out. And so they were checking things, and they kept her mind busy. And so she's watching them check them all, check all over. Yeah. And they said, okay, we're going to count to 3, and you're going to go 1, 2, 3. Ah! That's all I heard was, ah! There goes my wife. Off the thing, and then she comes back. They go grab you with a winch. It's like a high speed, like one of the 8274 winches, right? They drop a guy down on a cable, hook you on, and winch you back up to the bridge. And then I did the jump, and I was the heavy guy. I think I went the furthest. I mean, there's enough time to scream twice. If you wanted to breathe in and scream again, go ahead.
Wow.
And it was a lot of fun.
And all the teeming crocodiles down, right?
No, well,
hopefully
no. But, we were a ways up from the bottom there. But it was quite a good jump. And we went from there, ended up south of Cape Town, and went out with the sharks. Went out on the boat and went swimming with the sharks for a while in the cages off of that.
Great whites.
Yeah.
Oh, incredible. How was that?
Cool. All sorts of cool.
Now, are you on like a rebreather or a regulator to a line to the boat, or you have your own tank on, or how are you staying?
So what they did is they set it up as cages off the side of the boat. And so the cages were going down about 6 feet in depth, and they had about 2 feet of air above. So, and we all had tanks, and we were all in the gear. And so you'd climb into the cage, and the sharks were out and about. So you could get your breather and go down under the water and be like me to you from these great whites that were swimming around.
Wow.
Right in that area. And
did they care about you? Were they trying to eat you?
No, they swim by with the one eye.
Like,
check
stick
you out.
your hand out, please.
Don't stick your hands out of this place. So they really honestly didn't give a crap about us being there. But it was really interesting. We got to see some of them. Gads, one of them was about half the length of the boat. I bet it was like close to 20 feet.
Wow.
15, 20 feet long. Wow. And videos of the whole thing, and we did that. That was kind of cool.
Super cool.
Jumped off Lion Head on a parasail and did all sorts of fun things that were just more of an adventure for us in a personal sense than driving off in trucks and going, this is really cool.
Sure.
We're in the middle of nowhere. I love that, but I also love just going and for the sheer adventure of being in a new place and finding new things. So it's both sides of that.
Oh, no question. Yeah, you got to have the full spectrum. It's like Matt and I have talked many times about like how do we get beyond the truck? And maybe that's a mountain bike, maybe it's hiking, maybe it's that you just want to go to that beautiful winery at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. You talked about doing a bourbon tour coming up or something like that. Yeah. I think including those other elements is so important. To the trip.
Just feed in other things as you can, because the people that are there know what's going on. So not all of those little touristy things are bad.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
I'm just thinking about wine. Planning a trip around wine at this point.
Just like a rosé tour.
A rosé tour of Provence, but we can call it overlanding.
Yeah.
Somehow. Overlanding in your 911.
Well, yeah, I'm overlanding. It's a pretty empty term at this point. Anyways. So didn't say that a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it's now completely up to interpretation.
Adventure vehicle travel, right? Is that what we're talking
Adventure vehicle travel.
Yeah. So if that that Porsche's adventurous, how about it?
That's right. Yeah, it could be a Porsche from Rosé Winery to Rosé Winery in the south of France.
That would be a really great idea, except I wouldn't really make it past the first one.
Yeah, it could be an issue.
So you have a 200 series now, and you like it.
I love that truck.
It's kind of like
It's my baby.
it's your baby.
Second baby, though. Yeah, I do. We took the 100 series as far as I think it could go. We were one of the first people to really build up a 100 series, and so there was a lot of folks that looked at that. We traded it in for a 5th Gen 4Runner, 2013 Trail Edition.
I remember that one. That's when you were in Prescott.
Yeah, we bought that and built that up, and Clay and his crew took that as an impetus to start their 4Runners too. They looked at a lot what we did with that 4Runner and said, hey man, this is a great platform.
It was cool.
Wonderful truck. Did anything I asked.
I remember you saying that in dimensions, it was very similar to a 100 series.
Very much so.
Even though it looked slightly smaller than a 100. That's something that's always kind of stuck with me.
Very capable truck. It hauled my little AT Chaser around better than the 100 did with the V6. The one thing I kept on telling everybody is it's the reason why I like it more than the 100 is because it was lighter.
Yeah.
But the worst thing about it is that it was lighter.
Yeah. Felt lighter, huh?
Yeah, lighter. The metal's a little bit lighter. All the things about it made it a more efficient vehicle.
Yeah.
Right? And so it outperformed the 100. No question there. But I missed my 100.
Yeah, sure.
I missed my 100. And so we ended up getting a white 2013 200 series. And, that vehicle, I haven't found an equal in my eyes. There's not an equal to that vehicle.
Yeah, and just this morning we went out and did a nice video shoot on that. So all those that are listening, you'll see that come up on the YouTube channel, expeditionportal.com or Expedition Portal on YouTube. You'll see that come up soon. But what I really noticed in this particular build, having seen so many of your projects, is that this really is like the full culmination of your experience as a traveler and as a vehicle builder. And it's just a really thoughtful truck.
Thank you.
And what are the things that you like most about this one? The modification. What are the couple modifications that you've done that you most liked about, or that you most appreciate?
Well, to start out with good tires and suspension. I try my best to keep it as simple as possible and most durable as possible. The ones that I really like, the work that Goose Gear did on the interior back when Goose Gear had time to do things. They're very busy now, but I had a custom Goose Gear built out in the inside. Equaled the weight that I took out of it of seats, put it back in there with a lot more functionality. Now I can sleep in that vehicle. When I run by myself, I scoot the passenger seat forward and tilt it forward, and I've got 6'7" inside.
Wow.
So I throw a thermarest down and sleeping bag, and just like the E7 trucks, like I'm getting full circle here, like the E7s, sleep inside. You've got a lot of visibility, a lot of protection. You can get out of something fast if you need to, especially if you're solo.
Yeah.
That works out really well. One of the other things that I figured out, it didn't take long, is on a trip to Australia, I looked around looking for roof racks, and there aren't any roof racks on vehicles. They're all running load bars. And the reason why is because of the weight restrictions on the vehicles, right? So guys are trying to run light. All those load bars instead of racks is saving weight. Load bars are working just as fine under a hard shell or a soft shell rooftop tent. And it's redundant to have a rack underneath that scenario. So I'm running load bars on mine instead of a full rack. I
noticed that, yeah.
Just about all the weight in that vehicle is below waist high in my vehicle.
That's cool.
Well, I was watching it on the trail today. I mean, we went through that very crossed axle downhill obstacle, and the vehicle was very settled. Even with a roof tent and a awning up top, the vehicle was really, the F-250 Tremor that I was driving was like dancing rear wheels, like let me wheel lift to the moon on this side and then wheel lift to the moon on the other side, and your truck was totally stable.
Flexing down. Yeah, there's above above chest high in that vehicle, there's maybe 350 pounds.
Yeah.
That includes the roof of the vehicle.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot of weight in relative terms to the rest of the vehicle.
Yeah.
Above waist high on that. So it's a good fit.
Is there anything you'd do different with that truck if you were to build it again? Something that you'd leave out or use a different solution for?
No.
Cool.
Not one thing. In the older vehicles, I did a lot of electrical. Built up all sorts of systems and relays and switches and doodads and bells and all this stuff.
Yeah.
I'm down to a 6-circuit Blue Sea fuse block. I didn't need all of that stuff. Now with LED lights, you don't need all the relays. You don't need all that stuff. You can run it.
You have all the Switch Pro, Switch S Pod trigger things.
You can, but I don't.
You don't even have
and
to.
I don't even have to. You don't have to do any of that. If you're into that, awesome. But what I found is when I built it in there, I never used it.
Yeah.
The 100 series had a hot water system in it. I had a hot water heat shower system built into the thing. It was like a $2,000 gizmo I used twice.
Yeah.
Come on, that's a lot of weight and a lot of unnecessary stuff. So we've really tapered it all down and blended it all out. And this is the umpteenth build on a truck. So I've got it down to what I want, and that's fine with me.
I've definitely found that as I build more vehicles, less is more. Like I with my Gladiator, I tried to make it a little sailboat, and I now kind of regret that because I have all this weight and all this complexity, and I'm like, well, I could have also just had a fan and a light in there and probably have been just as happy. But Utah.
Yeah.
So you are from Utah, born and raised.
Born and raised. Yeah.
So for those listeners who haven't been, what's the one thing people should see in Utah?
I'd say just don't come. It's just
I've heard it's really bad and dangerous.
Dangerous, super dangerous.
No, Scott's alluded to this over the years, and I've heard him say it in quite a few places. He's been a lot of places. This guy, this guy, right?
Yeah.
He's been a lot.
He's been a few.
Places.
Just a few.
And his favorite place is Southern Utah.
Yeah.
And I would agree 100%. I know I've been traveling Southern Utah for going on 40 years, and I have not seen it all. I know a couple of our friends have seen more. Probably seen it all, but I have not seen it all, and it is just spectacular. There's nothing else that I have seen on the planet like it.
Well, there's such diversity of terrain in Utah. You have alpine, and then you have these like otherworldly rock eroded sculptures.
Yeah, from the Arches area with 3 national parks within that range. Bryce Canyon's amazing. Zion is amazing. The whole Escalante area is impressive. San Rafael swell. I mean, I could go on forever. And I've done a couple little seminars at some of the events that we've done, where I'll sit down and for an hour I take out the paper map, the Utah State official paper map, and I lay it out. And I start in the northwest corner of the state, and I go to the southeast corner, and I say, go here, see this. This is a great camp spot. Don't miss a burger at Ray's in Green River.
Yeah.
Go to here.
Oh, you took me to Ray's?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. Another place we've all been together is Ray's. Yeah.
And you point out all the things, and you could spend, a couple months easily doing nothing but going on a route around the state. It's life-changing for me. It's my life. That's what I really enjoy to do is Southern Utah. I'm a Utah boy, it's through and through. Northern Utah is beautiful. There's a lot of alpine there, but there's alpine in southern Utah too. We drive up to over 10,000 feet in southern Utah and get way above tree line if you want to do that kind of stuff. It's a lot of fun too. But there's so much area to cover. And
it's so accessible too. I think that's like really the cool thing for people that are, considering planning a trip to Utah is that there's not a lot of private land. So much of it is public. So much of it is accessible. I love it there.
Yeah, I do too. And so as far as one place to go.
Do you guys ever find yourselves, you're in wherever and you're like, that looks like Utah?
Yeah, totally do. Yeah. Except for there's so much of that in Utah.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that you've got, Canyonlands alone, it seems like you could spend a lifetime exploring that.
Oh, and the backpacking options down there.
Yeah.
It's endless. Have you guys ever been to Cappadocia, Turkey?
No. But you went there recently.
Yeah, well,
it's been the balloons there, right?
Yeah, they do the hot air balloons flying
like
above
karst limestone.
Right, and it was kind of a crossroads between the east-west and on the Silk Route, and kind of in that area, coming down from from, the crossing there in Turkey. It's impressive. We went up and did the hot air balloons. I had a friend that was in the military over there, and so we went over and said hi, and he took us around there a little ways. But that whole area reminded me of Bryce with different colors.
Wow.
Oh, and by the way, they made caves in Bryce.
Yeah, sure.
Right? But yeah, they had, hundreds of years of people living in the caves in like Bryce Canyon, only white.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, you go around the world and you're like, yeah, that's like here, or that's like that. You assimilate it to home.
Yeah, for sure. That is such a cool experience. So I'd love to go to Cappadocia. That'd be awesome.
It's pretty slick.
And a special thanks to this week's supporting sponsor, ARB. The latest episode of ARB Experiences stars Land Cruiser aficionado and my good friend Kurt Williams. The Baja 1000 competitor has been a few places and seen a few things. His travels span Siberia, Greenland, and the Americas all the way down to Ushuaia, as well as several crossings of Australia. Kurt says of his adventures, anything can happen out there. Just one part not doing its job can ruin a whole trip. Investments in quality components pay back exponentially. You can watch Kurt's full story at arbusa.com.
And then there's another kind of vehicle that you have a particular love for, and that's that Gen 1 Tundra. You are definitely a fan of those things.
I think it's the most underrated truck Toyota's made.
100%.
I think you're right. I think it's almost like you don't want to ruin it by getting the word out there that they're still one of the best. I mean, it has the 4.7 V8, which is one of the most reliable motors Toyota ever brought to the United States. And it's got plenty of power, and it's not as big as a full-size truck, but it's also not as compact as a Tacoma.
It is, the Gen 3 Tacomas, the Gen 1 Tundra is about, I think, somewhere in the range of an inch wider and an inch longer than the Tacoma now.
Yeah.
Okay, but you've got a V8 in it, and this one that we have, we call it Sleepy.
And that's the one that's supercharged.
Yeah, we put a supercharger
Not
on
so
it.
sleepy.
Kurt Williams, our good friend, he had, as far as we know, the last in-box, on-the-shelf TRD supercharger in the United States. And we put it on this truck. And another friend of mine installed it. He was the master tech instructor, Will Carroll.
Oh, yeah, Will. Yeah, he does amazing work.
Genius, with a wrench. So he put it on there, so I knew it was all done right. And that thing moves. It now has the same horse and torque as my Gen 3 Tundra, but it's the size of a Tacoma, and we put airbags on it. So I call it my 3/4 ton V8 Tacoma.
Yeah, sure.
Right? But it has the ability to hold the weight more properly than the Tacomas do, and it has the power to handle all that stuff. And yeah, I think it's the most underrated truck there is.
I think there was a period in time when almost every mechanic that I knew drove a first-gen Tundra because they didn't want to have to work on anything.
That's so true. Yeah, mechanics don't want to work
literally
on their own cars.
look in the back, car dealer or whatever, you're going to see mechanics driving first-gen Tundras. The only thing that wears out is the paint.
Yeah, true. Yeah. No, they do seem to all be losing their paint.
I think that was when they kind of were just switching to water-based paints.
They're
kind of
starting to
around that
figure it out.
area, like late 90s, early 2000s.
Right in that range, they were starting to do some oddball paint stuff. But yeah, we love that truck. We love that truck. Everybody fights to drive it.
That's awesome. And then what are some of the other projects you've got going right now?
I've got an FJ40 that I've had for 20 plus years, and we started using that for display and other things. And that's one of those unicorn vehicles that I was telling you about. I've had that the longest. It's got a 5.7 Vortec in it, and 37s and blah, blah, blah. It's a lot of fun. That's my summer driver. The midlife crisis little red convertible. Yeah, 20 years ago. But the one we're building right now is a 1983 FJ60.
Fun.
And it's a really clean truck. But
where did you find that one at?
A friend of mine in Salt Lake City was selling it. He found it. It was a Texas truck, and it'll make obvious sense in a second. It's a Texas truck that a gentleman bought for his wife. She wanted a Land Cruiser. She drove it once, and they parked it for 5 years. And so he picked it up and shined it up a little bit and did a couple things. And then I took on the project from there because I've always loved the 60s. But the drivetrain in it, it's the unique thing. It has a Ford 351 Windsor race engine in it.
Whoa.
With a Dana transmission and transfer case. The 400 horse V8 in the 60 series, and it looks stock. I mean, from the outside, you look at it, just looks
sounds sounds terrifying. It sounds like that's like a really quick way to end up dead. Because that car does not stop or turn either.
It's fun. It's not going to go out, and I'm not going to drag race it or anything, but it's fun
Sure
to have
you
that.
are.
Well, of course, maybe a little.
Just a little bit.
Not like the 200. We're not going to go lightning fast on this one, but it's fun. You load it up and you pull up to somebody in their Mustang, and they're like, and you hit their sitting right next to it. They look at you like, what the hell was that? It's fun. So we've been keeping it pretty stock. We added a few odds and bits to make
Sounds
it look
totally
nice, but it's
stock.
Totally stock, not. Right? Yeah, just don't look under the hood.
Well,
So that's kind of a fun truck.
the worst thing about the 60 is the engine. I mean, I'm not saying that it's not reliable and stout and
super
going to run
reliable.
forever. That's a
incredible
different
tractor
conversation. But it's an incredible tractor engine. It's
Yeah.
an FJ40 with a really nice body.
Yeah.
They're slow.
They're slow, but
That was my
get on
first
the way.
Land Cruiser, was a 1983 FJ60.
Really? Mm-hmm. Fun.
That was my first Land Cruiser. I didn't own it for very long because it was just me driving it. I'm like, why do I need such a big car? So I found a guy up in Flagstaff that had a growing family and an FJ40. And by some providence, like we were talking about earlier, he needed a 60 and I wanted a 40. And we met up in Lake Pleasant and we drove each other's car and we signed each other's titles over. And we both went home in the other vehicle. It was the craziest exchange I've ever had in my life. There was no money exchange. They were worth basically the same amount of money. And he got a super clean, grandpa-driven 1983 60, and I got a FJ40. So
Awesome. Both good vehicles.
Yeah, great vehicles.
Those are going to stick with me for a long time.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, no reason to change that
I
one.
love the way the 60s look.
They do look great.
It's like
Classic.
I haven't had a 200 and I haven't had a 60. Those are the only two Land Cruisers I haven't.
Oh, you had 100.
Oh, and I haven't had 100. Okay, so this is all just crap. I was thinking that it was like
You need to pick up your
Well,
game.
first I started saying, "Oh, it's the only one that I haven't had," and then I'm like,
The guy that
there's
swaps
the
through cars
200.
like toilet paper, and you haven't had those. What's up with that?
"I don't know. I should fix it."
I think so.
Gotta wait for those containers.
Because you had an 80.
You know how I feel.
I know exactly.
You had an 80 very early in life.
I
right,
traded
Matt?
a Land Rover Discovery for it.
Oh, okay.
Which was like my first car. And at that time, I couldn't afford to fix the rusty exhaust on the 80 series. And I remember driving it to Mall of America and the lines just burst on the highway. And I'm like, what the hell do I do?
What did you do?
Crimped them off, rebled them, and went to Mall of America.
Made it there
I didn't need rear brakes.
Yeah, totally overrated.
completely.
I mean, I don't even know if you can notice the difference if an 80 series has rear brakes or not.
They don't really stop.
They don't stop. They don't stop.
I love the 80s, though. The 80s
Yeah,
are
they're
like,
amazing. It just the brakes is just something that I tend to take issue
I've
with.
closed the chapter on the 80 series,
Yeah, that's right.
but it was a nice chapter.
Awesome trucks.
Yeah, yours was amazing.
Yeah. It was
Yeah, that was a very cool project, Matt, for sure. One of the things we also like to ask, Paul, is books that you have come to love, or maybe books that you've given to others many times because it's made such a difference for you. And it can be anything at all. What are some of your favorite reads as Paul May?
I've been dreading this question.
Okay.
Is it Mad Magazine? That's how I would answer it.
It's pretty close, yeah.
Yeah.
In a different vein, though.
Yeah.
In high school, I tried to be deep. I thought I was going to be philosophical, and like Albert Camus and Heart of Darkness. The whole Apocalypse Now kind of like. But what I liked about that was somebody that went far deep into Africa and found himself, but that what he found was a godlike person taking over everything in its surroundings.
Sure.
Very interesting, deep. I'm not a deep guy. I found that out after reading some of that stuff. I was like, yeah, no, that's
What's your
not me.
favorite beer, Paul?
I'm going to stay on the books for a second.
And then we can talk about your favorite beer.
Some of the things Crack Hours put out.
Oh, yeah, they're
I
great.
really the into the deep or into the into thin air and into the wild.
Yep.
Both analogous to our lives here.
Sure.
As far as too much crowding in one area can be catastrophic if you're not taking care of things correctly, or if you go too far in the deep by yourself, and things can happen out of your control sometimes.
Yeah, he's just such not only a wordsmith, but a research that he does to paint a picture of something that in both cases were tragic.
Very tragic situations, but it makes you think more.
Yeah.
On preparation and making sure that what you do is going to be okay. I love those things. This is going to sound really weird. Maybe not. I'm a Jimmy Buffett fan.
Okay.
Okay. He wrote a book called A Pirate Looks at 50, which is a play on a song of his. It was called Pirate Looks at 40. And it was a story in an autobiographical way. And it talks about him and where he started and what he did. And so I almost kind of like emulate that guy. I think he does an awesome job. He runs an incredible billion-dollar enterprise in bare feet.
Yeah.
Right? And Mario, our friend Mario, has a great analogy of it. It's like a duck. You see a duck on the water, and it looks like it's just cruising in heaven, just ease, handling life with ease. But you get down under the water, and those little legs are doing this the whole time, right? Correcting over here and doing this constantly. But if you look at Jimmy Buffett on the outside, you think this guy is just this laid back, hang out, Hawaiian shirt, shorts, barefoot.
But he has a $1 billion empire of $500 margarita machines.
Yeah.
And flies a seaplane and does incredible.
You used to have a sportsmobile.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
had a sportsmobile out on his stuff back on the eastern coast. And he's been all over the planet. And he goes and explores tropical places and exotic places in Africa and all over the place. He's been everywhere. But he does it his way.
Yeah.
Right? And his way doesn't have shoes. And I can understand that completely.
Yeah. I think I've seen you wear shoes a few times. I mean, I think maybe because we had to hike somewhere or whatever, but
Required.
yeah, maybe, yeah, exactly. But I think, yeah, maybe if you went to Antarctica, you would put shoes on, maybe
Some socks.
some socks.
But so, I mean, do I hand out books? Am I that guy that does voracious reading? No. I went to school, I went to grad school, and I gradually learned I didn't want to read any books anymore. I did enough of that.
Yeah.
So I listened to stuff, the military mystery, thriller kind of stuff, gets me across the 1,000-mile days.
Yeah, cool.
So it's brain dead stuff.
No, I always find it fascinating what people, what they identify with in that way, right? So
Yeah. A couple autobiographies. Autobiographies?
yeah,
I said it right, didn't I?
you did.
Barack Obama's
Oh,
A Promised Land.
Promised Land. I thought that was
I
pretty
haven't read that.
yeah, I haven't read
great.
it
I mean,
either.
to pioneer in a different way.
Yeah, sure.
Right? He had a lot of upward struggles.
Sure.
The other one that might sound kind of oddball is Matthew McConaughey.
Oh, I've heard that's a
McConaughey,
great.
excuse me.
Oh,
Matthew
Green Lights.
I've heard it's
that.
great. Yeah.
That's
It
good.
is. His life has been adventure in its own right. And he was a nomad. He bought a vehicle and he bought an old Airstream and he wandered the United States for a couple of years. And every once in a while he'd go back and make a film and then he'd get back in the truck with his dog and off he goes again. And
Yeah.
he's wandered the whole country.
Sounds perfect.
Because
doing
you
this
just
sounds like you in about 3 weeks.
Yeah, you just
pretty
You're
close,
about to
right?
pick up your first Airstream.
Yeah. Super
exciting.
excited about this.
You can get your Margaritaville margarita blender in the Airstream.
And you've got your dog, and you can go wander around the country.
Wander around the country.
You can drive.
You're going to be Matthew McConaughey.
Pretend that you're in a Lincoln commercial.
Not as good looking. Okay,
Yeah,
for
I mean,
one.
that's all up to interpretation,
That's
right?
to you
It
guys.
depends which movie he's in.
True. He can look terrible if he wants to. No, but I found it very humorous. It's not been an easy life for him. Some of it has, some of it's not been. But I took a lot away on being yourself, being true to what you want to be, find your goal,
Yeah.
live it.
Yeah.
Find a way of making that happen for yourself. And that's what he's done. He's done a good job of doing that for himself. So
That's a great suggestion. Cool.
it's a cool book.
Okay, so now we got to ask you about your favorite beer, because I remember in your historic home that you had downtown Salt Lake, you had a beer fridge. Its only job was to maintain the ideal temperature of, I think, a Red Stripe, and there was something else in there.
Frosty barley pops of all nature were in that, in that fridge, and it was a full-size fridge. We had it in the garage, and at any given time, I would have a variety of somewhere between 25 and 30 different beers from all over the world stuffed in that fridge. The new house has a beer fridge. It's just a slightly smaller version of the original. So favorite beers. My go-to right now is a Full Sail Amber.
Okay, nice.
Getting into the ambers more. The IPAs, no interest whatsoever.
Yeah.
I
Male
don't
frappuccinos.
something like that.
Yeah.
Anything
like
that makes,
dandelions.
these things right here in your neck, anything that makes those clench, you shouldn't drink.
And then
Yeah.
you get cotton mouth afterwards when you have like an IPA. You're like,
Oh, interesting. Yeah, that's why I guess I've never even tried one.
The IPA thing's interesting, right? Because it was like, here, have this beer that tastes like dandelions. And then somebody was like, oh, I really like this. Totally lying. And then his friend next to him was like, oh, yeah, I like that too. And then it became like
A thing.
Thing.
it became like I'm not going to admit that I don't like this. At least that's my
That's what
opinion.
your opinion is.
From the Pabst Blue Ribbon drinker.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's an acquired taste.
Yeah, it could be.
I'm really hoping that's the case, and I have not acquired that.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with this.
Yeah, amber's a great way to drink
It's a
beer.
great one, or pales or something in that IBU under 30. I'm good with that.
Yeah.
That's just fine with me. So, I got hooked on Red Stripes for a while. It was
I remember that.
very dangerous sport. Utah's known for some very interesting liquor laws, and so I knew exactly every entrance to the state of Utah on where to pick up the stash on the way back into
I
the
got you.
state.
I got you.
One time coming back from Nevada, we stopped by a liquor store in Mesquite, and I with the Chaser trailer, and I brought back, it was like 10 or 12 cases of Red Stripe in the trailer, bootlegging Red Stripe. And
Now I know why you bought a Chaser trailer. It was your bootleg. It was your
easier because
bootleg.
I could adjust the air pressure on the
No one would ever
suspension.
know.
No,
It wasn't sagging or anything like that.
No, it worked out great. So for a long time now, Utah's getting a little bit better on their whole process, and so it's not as bad.
Utah actually has some fantastic microbrews. They were kind of ahead of a lot of the rest of the country
Sure.
because of their laws, if I remember that correctly.
Yeah, they've done some incredible things to make beers with not much alcohol in them taste really good.
I actually like that
So,
idea.
yeah.
Like
It's
if I
what
could
we
get
call it.
like a full-bodied beer that was only 3% or so.
You could just drink a lot more of them, right?
Well, I don't know if you're a fan of Pacifico Light, but that is my Baja beer of choice.
That's a
because I can
maintenance
sit.
beer.
It's a maintenance beer. I can sit down with like a rack of it, and then at the end, I'm like, I'm rehydrated.
I feel slightly bloated, but totally hydrated. And not drunk at all.
You can drink those all day long.
What's next for you, Paul? Where would you like to travel next? You've got this Airstream that you're picking up. What's your goals for travel over the next couple of years?
With that in particular, we're going to do a lot of Americana. I'm really looking forward to. I'm kind of going the other way as far as people are like I got to get away from all the people, and I got to. I'm like, no, I'm going to go and see some things that are not in the way out. So yeah, we're gonna go do the Smoky Mountains, and we're doing a craft bourbon tour for a week, and seeing some of the countryside, and going up into South Dakota and seeing some of the Americana stuff there. I'm
That's
hoping
amazing.
to cross coast to coast Canada. I think would be a lot of fun.
That'd be great. Do the Trans-Canada Highway.
Yeah, do the full thing. And my wife and I are fortunate enough now that where we are in our position so we can work remotely for the most part. And so we're going to go and try that. We're even looking at staying for a while, a few months at a time remote, if we can work it out. There's still some bugs to work out of that.
Yeah, sure.
But more of the Americana stuff. And the vehicles that we're hauling this trailer around with are standalone in their own right. So if we find, get a bug up our nose and we want to go, hey, let's go over there for a couple days and climb this impressive, really hard technical thing. All right, just unhook the trailer.
That's the cool thing with the trailer is you can really just leave it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So like the trailer that we chose is light enough that we can haul it around with the 200, and we've got everything on that 200 that we can live on its own right.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like the base ship and the satellite X-Fighter cruiser. We can head out and do our thing, or the Millennium Falcon. As we talked about, just get away and we could go and do the really nasty stuff if we wanted to, not have a problem. So looking forward to that adventure.
So as we get close to the end here, I think that you should talk about why your Land Cruiser is called the Millennium Falcon. I thought that was really great. So you have one sticker on the vehicle.
Yeah, one little white cutout, and it's of a Millennium Falcon. What I liken it to is that it's a large cargo vessel that's white with black highlights on it, and it's capable of going like a bat out of hell. And that's exactly what that
6
truck
parsecs. I've seen you drive Baja in 6 parsecs.
is. Pretty dang close. Not as fast as some of my friends, but I'm keeping up with them better and better. Yeah, it is. It's our little Millennium Falcon. It does the job just right.
I do remember when you came out to Prescott and you wanted to start doing some higher speed driving, and you and I spent about an hour perfecting your Scandinavian flick in a 100 series. That was really fun. That was a good day.
That was an awesome day. My wife gave me a birthday present of Scott Brady training one-on-one. This is early on.
Yeah, this is when I actually did training way back then.
Right,
Yeah.
right back there. But even before the Overland training thing, and I wanted to learn to drift. And it's not easy to drift a fully kitted 100 series all-wheel drive truck, but we got it.
Oh, we did, yeah.
We also proceeded to break an entire case of Red Stripe in my fridge on one of those. You were trying to teach me how to do speed bumps. And we endoed into one of them. Yeah, I spent 3 hours cleaning the fridge out of glass and about 2 gallons of Red Stripe. After that, it was a sad day, but I got over it. But one of the coolest highlights of my life is drifting that 100.
I totally remember that. I mean, we perfected it with heavy trail braking, so it was just like last second of a turn, monster brake application. So left foot braking, trail braking, and the rear end would lighten just enough, and it would start to rotate. And then I'm like, Paul, full gas, and he'd roll into full gas, and it would pitch around the whole corner. It was beautiful.
And then right after we got that done, he goes, stop. And I'm like, hit the brakes. What? And he goes, that was so awesome. We were high-fiving.
Yeah, that was a good time. That was
awesome
a great day. That was really a great day. Awesome.
Sure was.
How can people find out more about you and about what you do?
So equipped1.com is our website. Equipped Expedition Outfitters. That has everything to do with our business and what we've got going on. You'll find all the vehicles that we have on there and a lot of the stories. There's a Facebook page linked off of there, Instagram off of there. My personal Facebook and Instagram are pretty darn boring. I'm kind of off the grid on that kind of stuff. So if you want to find me, just look up Paul Main. You'll see my ugly mug in there somewhere.
And Overland did a nice piece on your truck not all that long ago, so I think you can find that on YouTube on your 200 series.
Yeah, in the shop is their
That's
series
right.
that they did up in their thing, and we've been fortunate enough to work with them for a decade now. And I heard you mention the plaque that you got from.
Yeah,
they gave one to us too, and it's in our shop.
Oh, they're amazing people. For those that are listening to the podcast, if you don't know about Overland, make sure that you check them out on YouTube, and I think that they're also on Amazon Prime, yeah.
And they're running some of their shows from a few years ago. Equipped was their first sponsor. We met them at one of your events out in California.
Yeah, very
long time ago.
Yeah, wonderful people. So, any other questions you got, Matt, for our man Paul?
No.
Yeah.
Is it time for a beer yet?
It's time for a beer.
It is.
That's my question. Where's my beer?
In my truck.
Okay.
And on that note, we thank you all for listening, and we will talk to you next time.